Good morning, friends. It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. Hope you're doing well. Just checked on all of the seedlings. They survived the night. They're looking great. So we'll put some screening, netting over them today, or at least the one row that has the stuff that I know the birds love to eat. And then I'll feel a little bit better. But what we're mainly focused on today is getting the tulips unboxed and into the ground. Good morning, friends. It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. I hope you are doing well. It's Sunday, and I have to completely change what I was going to do today. I thought today was going to be Tulip Day. So I got delivery of 3 large boxes of flower bulbs a couple days ago, brought them out here, and I assumed they were tulips, but I was wrong. They are daffodils. I'd forgotten I ordered daffodils, a lot of daffodils. I guess the reason I did this, now that I'm thinking back, is that last September and October, when we moved from Fish Ranch to this location, I had to leave. I didn't have to, but I didn't have time to dig them all up. I had to leave about 1,000 daffodils at that property. And daffodils are a big part of my spring CSA. I have a CSA in spring called First Rites of Spring, which is literally only 4 weeks. It's every week you get a bouquet, and it's pretty much daffodils and tulips. Like, it's very limited, but it showcases those flowers. And so I have fancy ones. The tulips continue on a bit. The daffodils are the first ones usually for me to come up. And then the tulips continue on a little bit, and they get used as well in the regular spring CSA. So I do have tulips coming with all the ranunculus next week. These daffodils I ordered back in the spring. That's when we place our orders for the following year. And so I clearly had a plan back then of where I was going to put all these. And I got them out here, and I opened up these boxes thinking they were tulips. I was like ready to clean that lily bed and get the tulips in there, and I realized, oh, these are daffodils. Now I have to figure out, where am I going to put all these daffodils? So how many do I have? I'll show you. Okay, so some of these came in display boxes. Not that I wanted them in display boxes, but it was just it's the way they're packaged for a certain number. So when I got like 500, they'll come in big bags, but if I'm getting like 100 or 200, they come in these display boxes because that's just how they're shipped. So I have 200 of these. They're called Acropolis. Really, really pretty. I have 100 of these called Flower Drift. I'm trying to make sure that the camera catches it in this lighting. 200 of these Art Deco. 100 something of these. Oh, it's the heavy bag. These are replete. I have these at home. They are gorgeous. 250 in a bag I cannot lift of a daffodil called Tahiti. Doesn't have a picture, so I'll put one in here. So that's a lot of daffodils. And like I said, I don't remember what my idea was. I think I was going to put some more at home. So for some background, I'm in zone 9B. Tulips do not naturalize in my zone. And so there's 2 things about tulips. One, they don't naturalize. So if I just planted them in my landscape because I wanted tulips in my landscape, they would be beautiful the first year, the first spring, but then maybe only 1 to 2% would come up again. We just don't get cold enough for the tulips to naturalize. Daffodils, however, love it, and they naturalize and they spread. And so my original investment 4 years ago of a bunch of daffodils at home is always paying off because they continue to spread and produce more daffodil bulbs, and I use those as cuts. So I have a lot. I did remove a ton from an area in front of the vegetable garden. I still have those in a crate, but I don't know how viable they will be. They're very small because I planted them a little too close together. So these are much bigger tubers. So I think that was probably in my mind a way to replace some of those. So some of these I think are going to come home with me, but the others are going to go out here. Now the other thing about tulips is when we use them as cut flowers, we pull up the entire plant, bulb and all. And so there is no bulb left behind to come back next year. Even if we cut it off at the base and left the bulb in the ground, it still wouldn't come back because, like all bulb growing plants, you need to leave foliage on that bulb in order to photosynthesize and feed that bulb if it's going to come back next year. So if you're cutting off tulips at the ground and using them as cuts, those bulbs are done. They'll never come back because there's no way for them to get nutrients from the sun in order to regenerate themselves and come back the following year. So cut flower growers use tulips as an annual. We treat them as an annual. We plant them super close together. When they finally arrive and I show you how we plant them, they go in like eggs in a carton, very close together because they're not going to spread. They're coming up. We pull the entire thing up. And in fact, if you pull a tulip up with the bulb and everything, you can keep that in a cooler for weeks if it's in cracked bud stage with just barely opening. Because the warmer the weather is, the more they'll blow open. So I'm sure you've seen, if you've gotten some tulips at the store or whatever, on your way home, if the car gets warm, they just open really quickly. So if you want to keep tulips fresh and really tightly closed, as soon as they show a tiny bit of color is when we harvest them, and then they go to the customer that way so that they get the full experience of the tulip. But they can stay like that with bulb on in a cooler for weeks. They'll be dehydrated, but they're easy to rehydrate once you cut them and stick them in water. So there's a whole thing with tulips. It's kind of cool. But that doesn't fix my problem for today. It's not really a problem. It's more of a logistic thing. So I have some ideas. Let's go look on the farm and see if there's some places we can put these. Now, any place I put them, they're going to stay there forever. And it'll be beautiful in the spring. I'll be able to harvest on them, but they'll just be here. And so eventually, when we leave this property to move somewhere else, they'll be here as well. But that's okay. I don't mind. The landowners are absolutely wonderful people, and I would love to leave them some beauty. Eventually, when we leave, they'll see these blooms every spring because they'll just come up naturally. So let's go walk the property and I'll show you a couple of places I have some ideas. The other nice thing about daffodils, nothing eats them. Nothing. Deer won't eat them. Groundhogs won't eat them. Rats won't eat them. Gophers won't eat them because they are poisonous. Super bitter, very poisonous. And so I can plant these in unprotected space all over the farm and not have to worry about them. So that's really exciting. So this area up here is just the front gate. There's nothing here. We've been using it to store cardboard and wood and stuff. I think this would be a great location for putting in the daffodils because number one, it'll be beautiful. Number two, it won't look so crazy. And with the daffodils in, they'll help control some of the weeds as well. So I think I'm going to open up this space. I will come in. I don't even have to till it. I can literally just, use a bulb planter or just dig a couple holes and pop some in here and there. It's a lot of work. I'm not saying it's like it's no effort. But maybe if I can find maybe I'll get my drill and the power. I don't really have a power planter, but I do have a auger bit that I can use, and I will do a whole bunch of holes through here and pop a bunch in. So that is a really good location. Again, it would be nice for curb appeal, and this space is not being used for anything anyway, and nothing's gonna eat them. I probably will also place a bunch in here because all of this will die back over the winter and it'll just be kind of a barren plot. And so, I'll leave it up. I'm not going to cut anything down until early spring because all of these seed heads and stuff are good feed for the birds. And definitely the salvias, as long as they will last, are feeding bees and butterflies right now and hummingbirds. But if I put a bunch of tubers in here, that will be very pretty in the spring. And besides, I need to get in here anyway and get up some of these weeds. That is a wild lettuce. These guys get really nasty, so I need to pull all of those out anyway. And as I'm pulling them out, I can drop some narcissus bulbs in here, and it'll look really lovely in the springtime. There's also this whole area here, but of course right now we're using it as storage for all the irrigation that's about to go back onto these beds and all of the cardboard that's going to go down in pathways. But this is another place I can put a whole bunch of bulbs. And so we can save some out because I can plant up through mid to late November with no problem. And finally, it's this area here that Mike tilled for me that I still would like to put, and I actually have a bunch of seed packets out. I'm going to mix up a whole bunch of seeds that I'm no longer going to use in row crops. Things like Rudbeckia and Agastache and all the stuff that I like to put in pollinator patches. I have a whole bunch of seed packets for that. I'm going to literally mix them all together and sprinkle them on here so that next year it's just going to be wildflower craziness. I won't bother weeding it. It'll just be nuts. But this is also the perfect time to pop in a whole bunch of daffodils. So I do have more spaces down there, but I think because, you know, you can plant these not super close, but relatively close, 6 inches apart or so is fine, 6 to 8 inches. That will give them a couple years of expansion before you have to start thinning. And this soil has been tilled, so it's pretty loose. I can come in and just kind of throw the bulbs down and dig them in where they land, and then I can just cover them up and we'll be good to go. So I think that's the plan, to at least get something done today, because my whole plan shifted from thinking we were going to be planting tulips. All right, I'm gonna grab a couple bags. I think I'm still going to keep them separate by type, because that will make it easier to harvest, know what they are, because I can sell these as well. So it's a good, you know, it's a dual purpose system. Okay, so I've got the Tahiti variety in, and I have put about 4 inches of compost on top. So they're in that trench that Mike tilled for me. Then I sprinkled some soil in there to just kind of keep them in place, and then we dumped all the compost. So that's them, the Tahiti variety, and I'll just have to wait until spring to see how they really look beyond their photograph. I'm sorry about the the light like this. I'm not going to worry about watering these guys. I never bother. The rains in the wintertime take care of that. And so I'm not going to put them on irrigation or anything. They do just fine with whatever comes from the sky. Now that we've got that row of Tahiti in, it's getting late and I'm getting hot and hungry, but I am going to do one more thing. So this dahlia bed, these were all planted from seed, and so it'll be fun to see what they come back as next year. I'm not going to cut them down just yet. I'm going to put a bunch of daffodil bulbs in here. I'm going to put the art perfume variety in. Not a ton, but enough. And then I'm going to cut down the dahlias because they're done, and they're going to stay in here. I'll pull up the weeds, the few weeds that are in here, and then I'm going to add a bunch more soil on top, and then this bed will be done and ready for spring. So this bed is proof to me that you can protect dahlias from gophers, because nothing got into this bed. Even though it could run overland, nothing bothered these dahlias all year. And so this is exactly what I'm going to do to the dahlia bed down there where we had all the destruction later. After we deal with tulips and stuff. So that's my plan. There is irrigation in here. I'm going to pull it up so that I can put it back down on top of the soil when I put new soil in. Well, that's it for me today. This bed is done. So as you saw, planted a whole box of, I think so that's 50, of the art perfume variety narcissus in there. Cut down the dahlias because they're done, and then added a whole bunch of compost on top and put the irrigation back in. So we're good. These guys are great until springtime. And I went ahead and installed the screen over the bed that has status, and I think snapdragons? I don't remember. I'd have to look on the map. But anyway, this screen is installed. Now, it's not going to keep rodents out, but the whole point is to keep birds out because the birds are what really love to eat the status. This way, the status down here on this end can get nice and big and be ready to go into the winter with a good root system. Yeah, these are snapdragons and cynoglossum, I think. No, feverfew cynoglossum, so that must be snaps. I didn't have enough snaps to fill that whole bed, so yes, snapdragons, a little empty spot that'll get more snapdragons in the spring, and then all the status. So I think I am going to order, I do have floating row cover, and I can put that over the rest of these beds, which will also keep birds out. But it also makes the beds warmer, and it's for frost protection. And so I'm not really ready to install that yet. And I want to fill part of this bed as well with ranunculus when they come. So we'll just see. I'm going to keep an eye on them, come out here every day, make sure nothing's eating at them. And of course, take quick action if I notice destruction, but fingers crossed. So tomorrow, I'm going to come back out and try to keep excavating that bed so I can get 2 beds done over there. They'll be ready for ranunculus along with this one. And then we still have the 8x4 bed to put the tulips in, as well as the 4x6 bed. So plenty of protected space and still a lot of work to do, but a lot has been done. So I feel good about that. I just have to make a note to not screw up and put the wrong ship date for ranunculus next time. I do not know what I was thinking. Anyway, it's all good. All right. Thanks for hanging out with me today, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.